coronavirus pandemic arrived in Brazil in early 2020, when the first cases were registered. And shortly after that, the social distancing measures were implemented. And also the government decided to put in action a stimulus package. That stimulus package included cash transfers to vulnerable individuals. It included tax deferrals to firms, the flexibilization of labor laws to try to hold the level of employment in the economy. It also included financial support to states, among other things. The biggest dent in economic activity happened in the second quarter of 2020, when the GDP fell by almost 10% compared to the previous quarter. But the economic activity resumed, it kicked back in the following two quarters. In the third quarter of 2020, the GDP went up by 7.7%, and in the fourth quarter of 2020, it went up by another 3.1%. And by the end of 2020, it was almost back to pre-pandemic levels. And we believe that that was due in part to the sizable stimulus package that Brazil implemented. It was almost 12% of the Brazilian GDP, the largest stimulus package among the developing economies. So because of that, the Brazilian GDP fell by 4.1% in 2020, which was a very small fall compared to what happened in the world, right? Our neighbor, our next door neighbor, Argentina, had their GDP falling by almost 10% last year. Uruguay had a fall of GDP of 5.7%, Chile of 5.8%, Mexico of 8.2%. The GDP of the Eurozone fell by 6.6%, and the GDP of the group of advanced economies fell by 4.7%. So if we consider the time frame since the beginning of the pandemic, what I mean by that is 2020 and the first half of 2021, the Brazilian GDP had an increase of 1% in real terms. That is also a good performance if we compare to our neighbors. Argentina had a fall of 4% of their GDP, Uruguay of 2.9%, Mexico of 2.7%. The Eurozone had their GDP falling by 1.1%. Advanced economies overall had their GDPs going up by 0.2%. So all of those countries and groups of countries had a worse performance than Brazil.